May I ask your perspective on the election in the United States,
Yes,
the
sure.
relationship with Donald Trump and Germany, who maybe shares some of the same views, particularly on immigration, but also in a sort of very nationalist view of things, would be very damaging economically for Germany. How do you imagine that relationship? How damaging do you think that could be to Germany? How does it change your view of the United States as very critical over its influence over Germany and Europe?
Well, first of all, when I saw the elections in the US, I almost had physical pain how Donald Trump and his family was disparaged by the mainstream media. So I really had physical pain to see that, like how unfairly he was treated by the mainstream media. So I have to be very frank. I actually put my thumbs up for Donald Trump. We have huge hopes with in his presidency, and I really hope that he puts an end on this terrible war in the Ukraine, because the European member states are actually not willing or capable of doing something like that. So we have to tell the truth that we are not capable anymore. I think, because you asked me on trade policies, I think that gambling with tariffs and actually imposing them effectively is a huge difference. And having a look on our car makers, for instance, because German policymakers, they always say, okay, German car makers might be hit very hardly by tariffs, but they're already there with their plans. BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, they have almost, I think, 25,000 employees in the US. Mm-hmm. So the firms, the companies, the German companies, they are already in the US. And do you know why? Because of high energy prices here in Germany. So the policies, these obnoxious policies being imposed on German companies by our own policymakers actually led them to build plants in the US and abroad, because here they cannot produce anything anymore on a competitive level.
And another question, that you had your co-chair out this weekend talking about NATO and the relationship of Germany to NATO, saying that basically Germany should consider leaving NATO in its current arrangement. Is that a position that you agree with, and on what basis?
Well, this is not exactly what he said. He said that we need to strengthen the European pillar within the NATO. What does it mean? Well, our security interests are pretty much different from the US within the NATO. And I think, in my opinion, that the Europeans should put their act together, doing more within the NATO. Germany, for instance, never have been paying 2% of GDP at all. So therefore, Donald Trump is perfectly right. So we need to contribute to NATO. But it's also in our responsibility to formulate our national interests, because our national interest is quite different from the US. And it's very simple why. The US is very far away, and here in Europe we have this war in front of our doors. So our security interest is completely different.
Do you see Germany's interests as more aligned with Russia's interests than with the interests of the United States?
Well, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think Germany should have taken a more diplomatic part, but Germany failed in doing so. And I think that Donald Trump is really capable to sit together with Russian diplomats, with Putin, to formulate a freedom treaty, because what we need is freedom, because otherwise I'm in fear, to be honest, that this conflict, this terrible war, may escalate.
And on the question also of Ukraine, you've also talked about sort of reconnecting with Russia, reconnecting Russian gas, basically going back to the old German model of lower cheap Russian gas coming in to support industry. Why are you so confident in being so dependent on Vladimir Putin, particularly in light of what we saw over the last few years? Why are you so confident to hand that dependency to Russia, rather than with people that you have potentially a longer track record with of a cooperative relationship and a more diversified source of energy?
Well, being dependent on Russian gas, you should really ask this question Angela Merkel, because
It's a policy you're advocating as well.
No. Wait. We want to have cheap energy and secure energy in Germany. This is what I stand for, and this is my humble opinion. This would be the right policy, and the energy market is highly disturbed in Germany. We are the only industrial country having switched off nuclear power plants. You have to imagine this, right? So what we need to do is going back to cheap and secure energy support. Otherwise, our entire companies get bankrupt or they go abroad. Like thousands of people sit on the streets because the German companies actually go abroad. They go to the US, they go to China, they go to the neighboring countries, because we cannot guarantee energy support anymore. So we need nuclear, we need gas, and we also need coal. All of this, like the solar and wind power plants, you cannot do this in Germany. It's not possible. And you don't need to be a very smart person, actually, to come to this conclusion. This is a funny thing, actually.
And on the sort of question of European politics, again, sort of having seen some of the other far-right parties, or you dispute that categorization,
absolutely,
but some of the parties that say some of the similar things, they have gone more to the center. We think of Le Pen in France, we think of Meloni in Italy. Is that something, an outline, a blueprint that the AfD is willing to follow in order to gain real influence in the German political debate? Or do you think that they have basically sold out?
Well, once again, in Germany, or the label far right is being labeled on people or party, like when people go to work, they earn money, they want to have border control. People who want their children to have a very good education, they're all labeled as right-wing. So I don't understand this label. I just suggest everyone to read our program, first of all. And yeah, we are a conservative, libertarian party. And what we want to have is, we want to have a future for the next generation here. And we don't want to have this chaotic politics being imposed on the people. And if you have